Dudes to Dads, brought to you by Dad University, is a podcast to help men understand and navigate the transition of being a single dude into a family man. How do we make sense of it all? Well, we probably won't be able to, but let's go ahead and have some fun trying. And we are back. I'm Jason Kreidman.
I'm Alan Bush.
And this is Dudes to Dads. Alan, how are you?
I'm groovy.
Very excited this evening?
I am excited.
You better be, because it's episode 161.
Yes, it is a palindrome of an episode.
And I'm not even sure I want to say the title yet of this episode.
All right.
I'm going to explain and ease into it because it's such an informative... informational. How many different ways can I say that?
Info is involved.
Info is involved. It's very, very good.
Okay.
If that's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about a technique that my mom used to use on many different things. Basically, it was a really simple way that she would measure stuff. Okay. Stick with me. It could be how bad a cut hurt when I fell off my bike.
Okay.
Or it could be, judging the taste of a meal at a restaurant.
Okay.
I'm talking about using the scale of 1 to 10.
Right.
It was a very profound thing that my mom used to do.
Yeah.
Where she would consistently say, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. And we grew up with that all the time. And there was I was looking back at it because I just recently did it with my kids. I was like, so on a scale of 1 to 10, how much does that hurt? Or, whatever. And so what you do, or I should say how you assign the numbers totally depends on the context. But it became a very common way in my own family to measure stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think it helps, it helped me, but it helps kids sort of measure and do analysis on a situation or what they are thinking about or what they're doing or what their experience is.
Yeah.
And so I'll give you a couple of examples because it might help. So you have a 7-year-old. 7-year-old gets hit in the back with a ball, outside and starts crying.
Sure.
So you can say, of course, unless first you console them or whatever, but you basically say, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 means it doesn't hurt at all. 10 means you have to go to the hospital immediately. How bad does it hurt?
Yeah.
And what you begin to do is you begin to then have them evaluate things so that you kind of understand the severity of the situation.
Yeah, you're showing both extremes. So it's like you're not hurt at all versus, oh my God, you get your back amputated.
Right.
And it does put it in perspective. Well, it's not that bad.
Right. And so then you get to know, because the child might say it's a 6.
Yeah.
As they get a little older and start to understand it. Or they'll be like, you know what, it's a 9. And you're like, whoa, that is serious.
Yeah.
So it's hard. It's hard often for us to evaluate things on a scale without providing some sort of scale. So that's the idea. And so I grew up with this from a scale of 1 to 10, it's like this thing that's ingrained in my head. And I was like thinking that's great to share, because when I've shared it and I've shared it with my kids, they enjoy it. It's a useful tool. So I like the psychology aspect of it. The giving the extreme versions and then making them compare to and put themselves in because it's always the middle. Right.
If they could even talk, it's somewhere in the middle.
Right.
Right.
It's usually a 4 to 6.
Yeah, it's somewhere between 4 or 6, and usually it's somewhere in the middle. And maybe there is a little bit more extremes, like I broke something. It's a whole different thing. But usually like the pain or like you said, or is I just like that aspect of it. It's a really good psychology behind it.
Yeah. So here's another one that might be, more personal in our adult life is you get invited to an office party and you're not sure if you want to go.
Yeah.
So you have to assign a number to it, if you have your own system.
Yeah.
And so 1 is like the horrible, worst, boring party you can imagine.
Yeah.
And then 10 is the best time of your life.
Right.
You know? You can have a measurement for yourself that essentially says, hey, I know, when you evaluate this, it's like if it's under 5, I'm not going.
Right.
And you know that beforehand to then be able to evaluate it and says, unless there's some political reason, like, okay, I have to go because my boss, blah, 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 whatever.
Yeah, sure.
You just know that just from a pure feeling, if it's a 5 or below or a 4 or below, you're like, no, it's going to be a 4. I'm not going. And it makes it a very quantifiable judgment of how to look at things.
When I first moved to San Diego, I may have done this, not in terms of a job, but someone invited me to a wedding. I hadn't seen this person in a long time. And then all of a sudden I get invited to their wedding and I'm going,
it's a 3.
Oh, I'm like, yeah. And but I didn't, like, I felt obligated to go. So I got dressed and I started driving and I was turning around and said, I'm not going to this. Because in my head, I'm going, this is not going to be fun at all. I haven't seen this person forever. They're inviting me to this wedding based on, they just got in touch with me and I'm randomly in San Diego simultaneously. Yeah, I'm not going. And I didn't even tell them. I just didn't show up. They didn't even notice. So I was like, whatever. And I'm glad I did it because it really...
Did you pay for the meal that you wasted?
No, someone else probably ate it. The dog or something ate it. But I just kind of, like, I literally got in my car
you realize when you
on
get
my
married,
way there and I just turned around.
You're going to realize when you get married how bad that is. Because people prepay for the meals?
Well, I didn't. I think I got an invite. I didn't have to RSVP.
Oh, okay.
One wasn't one of those where I RSVP to
whoever wants to go. Yeah,
yeah.
No, but you'll realize that if you have a wedding, I didn't realize that until each meal was X amount with each chair and each thing, and you're like, hey, that was $125 that the person that didn't just said they were going to show up didn't show up. Yeah. Like, it's not cheap, depending on your wedding. It's
right.
And so you realize that. So like now, then of course, anytime there's a wedding, I'm very quick to respond.
Sure.
I'm very, if I can't,
if you can or can't go,
or I'd send them money if I feel bad.
Yeah, get a coupon at Wendy's. Just here you go.
So I mean, if you might think like, hey, for this situation, what I was saying about the office party, like that if it's going to be under a certain number, it just makes it easy to make decisions. I think.
Sure. Yeah.
It just, assigning values to them. And I think this works in business all the time. I mean, you see customer surveys, evaluations, they all kind of have scales like that. Like, how did you rate our service? How did you rate? And the whole point is because they can assign the numbers to it. They can average it. They can do all kinds of stuff with the data.
Yeah, that's the interesting point I was going to bring up earlier too, is that if your mom remembered all the numbers that you gave back, well, everything bad that happened to you always was a 5.
Right.
What is going on with this 6? Like, and she could actually, she has like analytics behind what you've done.
Alexa could probably record that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. As why not include this in our lives? It makes sense.
Yeah.
So, I think people have often used the scale for evaluating how somebody looks. Oh, she's a 10. Right. Oh, she's a 5.
There's literally a movie with Bo Derek called 10.
Right, exactly. And there's a ton of stuff online that is inappropriate. Just rude. Of like showing somebody who's a 2 versus, because what was Hot or Not? Wasn't that the website?
Oh, yeah. What happened to that website?
Yeah, I think that didn't that do that, or like where they had to evaluate a number or something,
right?
Back in the 90s. So that's a common thing, but you can apply like so many things in your own life and your children's life with this scale. Yeah. So you can teach them how to evaluate things. So here's some other examples, with your kids. So like if you're talking to your child and they're talking about their sports or something, you say like, how much do you like soccer? 1, you hate it, or 10, you love it. And same thing. You'll get a sense of their interest in it by doing it. Like you said, the extremes. Or if you have something where you have a few different options to do something on a Saturday, let's say, you say, how badly do you want to go to the park on Saturday? 1, you don't want to go, versus 10, you can't live without going to the park.
Right.
If your kid's really young, they might say 10s all the time.
Right.
But, as they get older, they'll begin to understand that. And I think, which I gave the example, when they get hurt, whether it's emotionally or physically, it's a great tool. Because I have found, now that they're getting older, it's a little different, but kids, at least my kids, when they were really young and would, quote, get hurt, it was often not physical.
Right.
It was like their feelings were hurt.
Yeah.
Or they didn't like
embarrassed.
Embarrassed. They didn't like the situation. So when you strictly say, hey, from a scale of 1 to 10, how bad does your finger hurt? That makes it very specific, rather than, Were you emotionally scarred from that ball hitting you? You know,
Yeah.
which is a whole other podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
He made me feel bad.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I just think it's a great tool. I think you get the idea with this.
Yeah, I like it.
You know, and I think,
It's so simple. It's been used before. I've heard it before, but it is kind of cool. Like I said, the fact that you use that psychology to give that extreme version of it. Well, how bad is it? Are you on fire? You know, no.
right.
Okay.
Yeah. 1 is it doesn't hurt. 10 you're on fire and you're going to die.
Yeah, you're going to need to go to the hospital. No, I don't need to go to the hospital.
That's what my mom would always say. It was like 10, you got to go to the hospital, the emergency room now.
Right.
You know, and I'm like, no, I don't need to go to the emergency room. It's like, well, then it's not.
Yeah,
it's not a big deal.
We're okay.
And you also have the valuation then. So like, you know, if it's a 7 or above, they know you do something. If it's not, you're like, okay, well then let's see how it is. In an hour or two.
Kiss the boo boo and
right.
Yeah.
Right. And so as they get older, they get probably a little bit better at evaluating.
Sure.
That, but it is kind of fun for them to do that.
Yeah.
So it just, it helps. It helps the kids measure things around them and the things around you. So
Yeah.
So anyways, thanks, Mom.
That's great.
For the subject of the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with that, Alan, what should people do if they have any feedback, comments, praise, criticism?
Yeah.
Which, I mean, nobody would ever criticize.
Well, they'd give us a scale from 1 to 10.
Oh, that's a good one.
Why don't you leave what number you think?
Except if it has to do with stars, it means it's 1 to 5 and it needs to be 5.
Well, if you doubled it,
Right.
you get to leave 2 reviews, and if they're 10, that's
Just
great.
internally, give us that.
You should email us, podcast@dudesadads.com. Hit us up on our social media channels, Dudes to Dads on Twitter, dudesadads.com on Facebook, and please go to iTunes and Stitcher and YouTube and subscribe. YouTube has a lot of great videos on Dad University, and also perpetuate the show. Again, leave 10 stars if you can. Leave 2 reviews, 2 5-star ones. That's mathematically correct,
can you do
right?
that?
Yeah, I think so. Whatever scale you think we are, then put it on there. Right. If you think we're a 5 on iTunes, that's great.
Yes.
And then leave a comment if you can. Go to Stitcher, leave a comment, and it really helps perpetuate the show when that happens. So
That's awesome.
Thank you.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, Alan, how was the show? See,
I give it a 10.
We could do that too.
We can do that all the time.
I'm going to keep doing it. I'm gonna do it everywhere. So, well, thank you as always.
Thank you.
And we will see you next time.
See you next time.